Starting with news just coming in, former US President Donald Trump strongly criticizes NATO leaders for their handling of the situation. While speaking at a conference, former US President Donald Trump said the problem is that the leaders are dumb, not that Putin is smart. He further said that sanctioning someone was not enough and that the West should focus not only on economic sanctions but also on psychological attack. This is the former US President Donald Trump, and he has strongly criticized NATO leaders for their handling of the situation. While speaking at a conference, former US President Donald Trump said that the problem is that the leaders are dumb, not that Putin is smart. He further said that sanctioning someone was not enough and that the West should not only focus on economic sanctions but also on psychological attack here.
Putin is saying, oh, they're going to sanction me. They sanctioned me for the last 25 years. You mean I can take over a whole country and they're going to sanction me? You mean they're not going to blow us to pieces, at least psychologically? The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb. So dumb.
The once vibrant European capital, Kiev, is living under a blanket curfew right now. The residents have been asked to stay off their own streets. Some Russian forces have entered the city. Anyone on the streets will be assumed to be a member of the enemy. The evening started with a blaring air raid siren. Russian forces pounded the capital with artillery and cruise missiles. In the dead of the night, streets were left empty. This was in contrast to the columns of vehicles choking roads in the recent days. Tens of thousands of residents fled west, continue to do so in hope of evading the aggression here. And those still in Kiev took shelter on makeshift beds and an underground car parking. Officials issued warnings to stay away from windows, take precautions to avoid flying debris and bullets. Just like their government, people of Kiev are also full of will to keep fighting on.
Major oil-producing and consuming countries toward our
Вчера, после заявлений киевского режима о готовности к переговорам, активные боевые действия на основных направлениях операции были приостановлены. После того, как украинская сторона отказалась от переговорного процесса, сегодня всем подразделениям был отдан приказ о развитии наступления на всех направлениях в соответствии с планом проведения операции.
In the last couple of nights, many have spent sheltering in basements, underground parking, garages and subway station. Russia claims its assault on Ukraine is aimed only at military targets, but reports claim that bridges, schools, residential buildings have also come under attack. Western leaders urged Vladimir Putin to choose the path of diplomacy, but after Kremlin ordered its troops to barge into the neighboring country, diplomacy took a back seat. Kiev has maintained that it is always open to dialogue, but in a statement, Russian Defense Ministry claims that Ukraine rejected the negotiation process, after which Moscow ordered to broaden its offensive from all directions. In the latest statement by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that presidents of Azerbaijan and Turkey have organized talks with Russia, and Kiev is ready for that.
Боротися стільки, скільки потрібно, щоб звільнити нашу країну. Якщо діти вже народжуються в укриттях, навіть коли тривають постійно обстріли, то у ворога немає жодного шансу у цій, безперечно, народній війні.
Coming to the far east of the country, Donetsk, parts of which are controlled by Russian-backed separatists. Remember, the tension started from here. Russia recognized Donetsk and Lugansk as independent regions. There has been fierce fighting between national troops and rebel leaders. Fresh shelling took place, damaging the buildings. At the moment, it is not clear how many fell victim to the latest clashes.
Two cars.
Down south, the port city is home to Ukraine's hydroelectric power plant, where satellite imagery shows Russian ground forces assembled. The images were released by Maxar Technologies. Trucks can be seen on the dam for the plant as well as other parked on the road. Experts say that Russian troops have been met with unexpected resistance in the last 3 days. Now, in 2019, Volodymyr Zelensky was a comedian, not a politician, with no political history. 3 years later, he is leading Ukraine's defensive against an aggression by Russia. Let's just listen in to the unlikely war leader.
Looks like, no, что там? A barricade? Ah, it's a burning car. It's a see. We just saw the fire in the distance, and we went. Oh my God!
Russia has closed its airspace to flights operated from carriers from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Slovenia. Now, this comes as a tit-for-tat move at a time when the country is invading Ukraine. Britain banned Russian flagship carrier Aeroflot from flying in its airspace. Austria's national carrier, the Austrian Airlines, announced cancellation of flights to Russia for at least the next 7 days. Meanwhile, Bulgaria, Poland, Czech Republic, the Baltics, Germany and Slovenia have also closed their airspace to Russian carriers. This step comes in response to Russian invasion of Ukraine. German airline Lufthansa has said that it is halting flights to Russia and will stop overflying the country for the next 7 days. The Ukrainian airspace has been closed to all civilian aircraft. The Eastern European countries are now monitoring their airspace carefully. Moldova, southwest of Ukraine, has banned commercial flights. Meanwhile, Belarus has said that civilian planes could no longer fly over part of its territory. You can see the map on your screen right now. It shows a total blackout of the Ukraine airspace. This after a number of countries issued guidelines prohibiting their airlines from flying over Ukrainian airspace. Meanwhile, UN civil aviation body condemned the violation of Ukraine's airspace after the Russian invasion. In a statement, the body said that the invasion violates Article 1 of the Chicago Convention, which established the ICAO as well as the rules of the airspace, rights in air travel and security. The International Civil Aviation Organization Council has 36 member states. The council has urged Russia to cease its unlawful activities to ensure safety and security of civil aviation in all the affected areas here. It also called upon Russia to respect its obligations under international air laws. Now, the ICAO is not a global regulator, does not have the power to impose sanctions. It is a forum for states to set international aviation standards.
От того, что произошло в Косово. Да ничем. Просто там решения были приняты парламентом, а здесь абсолютно неприемлемо. Особенно...
Ukraine is under attack. Russian troops undeterred. Ukraine's citizens have been asked to help fight the enemy. Men aged 18 to 60 were asked to stay back. Their families packed whatever they could carry on their backs to seek shelter across the borders, mainly in Romania, Poland and Moldova. Now, here's a look at what this perilous journey entails. These are the residents of Ukraine, leaving their homes as Russian troops move deeper into the country. With little on their backs on a perilous journey, trying to cross over to Poland in search of shelter and security. This miles-long queue is made up of scared individuals, anxious mothers, children who are too young to understand what is happening, hoping to escape missile strikes, bombing, hoping to never have to wake up to air raid sirens, and to never bear witness to the panic and commotion sparked off by Russian military operations. It's a long wait, 6 to 12 hours. But what other options do they have?
Because of martial law, all military obliged, all men must fight for the country, for peace, to prevent attacks from enemy forces, and for everything to be all right. We and children must leave Ukraine.
In just 48 hours, some 50,000 residents fled the country. The UN Refugee Agency has requested neighboring countries to keep their borders open. Around 5 million are at the risk of being displaced. Across the border, Polish residents rush to assist Ukrainians. Moldova, on the other hand, set up special humanitarian centers with medical staff and social workers, all set to assist displaced Ukrainians and provide basic humanitarian, legal and food aid. And then we have Romania, that witnessed an influx from 6 different checkpoints. As per the border police, the inflow is up by 120%. While some plan to huddle till they have more clarity, others plan to continue their journey to other European nations. These border crossings have witnessed several tough goodbyes over the last few days, and that is a gross understatement, with many forced to leave behind their husbands, fathers and brothers.
Where are you going? Where will you go?
Poland.
Your husband, where is he?
Ukraine.
He managed to live or not?
In an attempt to counter Russian troops in Ukraine, US President Joe Biden has signed an order to provide $350 million in military aid to Kiev. This development comes as Russian forces continue to march forward and overturn the Zelensky government. Other countries, including Germany, have also announced to provide military assistance to Kiev, while France has pledged to send more military equipment as well as fuel to Ukraine to help fight off the Russian invasion. Our next report gets you all the details.
President Joe Biden on Friday instructed the U.S. State Department to release up to an additional $350 million worth of weapons from U.S. stocks to Ukraine, as the country struggles to push back a Russian invasion. In a memorandum to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Biden directed that $350 million allocated through the Foreign Assistance Act be designated for Ukraine's defense. This marks the 3rd time that the United States has drawn from its weapons to supply Ukraine, after doing so in the fall of 2021 and then again in December. Blinken on Saturday called the 3rd authorization unprecedented. Over the past year, the United States has committed more than $1 billion to security assistance to Ukraine, Blinken said. Ukraine has been asking for Javelin anti-tank weapons and Stinger missiles to shoot down aircraft. Other nations have pledged military material to Kiev, as Ukraine's military fights against an invading Russian force. The Netherlands will supply 200 Stinger air defense rockets, while Belgium has pledged 2,000 machine guns and 3,800 tons of fuel. France has decided to send defensive military equipment, while adding that the issue of sending offensive arms was still under consideration.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.